Now it is time to catch up with somebody who is one of my touchstones when it comes to fantasy football. And he's going to disavow any knowledge of the deal that he talked me into a couple weeks ago. So we bring in Danny Higginbotham and find out what's up with Higgy Baby. What's going on, my friend?
Hello, how are you, my friend? I can't believe you've just given me that build-up.
Well,
The fantasy. I've not even started yet.
we had our draft. I was the number one overall pick because I was off.
Oh, okay.
And
that can work out in your
trying to
favor.
build for the future. Well, yeah, and I've also had people trying to knock on my door, sit there and go, "You don't want your number one for next year, do you? You want to trade down and you want to do this and that." And so I was leaning toward that trade, the Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert deal. I just wanted to have someone to bounce it off of. So you're like my fantasy football bartender.
Wow. It's what I told you. You should probably do the opposite. So this will be my, I think, 4th year doing it. And the first year, I had zero idea what I was doing, and I won it all. And then, obviously, since then, I've been boasting, and I've like missed the playoffs, and then scraped into the playoffs. So if it goes wrong, then I know that I'm going to get the blame from a text that you sent me a couple of weeks ago. Did you take my advice?
No. Oh, absolutely. I did the trade. I absolutely did.
Wow. Hopefully it works out. I was being biased as well, wasn't I, for obvious reasons?
I mean, yeah, I figured as much. I mean, I figured that was kind of part of the deal. It's been a while since we've caught up, and I wanted to get your thoughts on one thing that seems to be going through the pipeline this morning because of your World Cup-age, in addition to your MLS-ness. It looks like Braylon Bolo is heading to Atlanta United. And it's a deal they're looking at 18 million euro is the number. So right now, Braylon Bolo heading this way, finalized things are being finalized. Your initial thoughts if that comes to pass?
I think you look at it and you think to yourself, yes, you know what, this is a good signing. It's a lot of money. Atlanta, they spend a lot of money. But one of the things is that I covered them the first game back after the World Cup when, they played against Nashville. And they gave a really good account of themselves, and I think anybody that was tuning into that game for the first time and you're asking who is where in the league here, you would have probably said that Atlanta were the team that were near the top of the league. But the problem that I see, and this is from the outside looking in, you have a number of good players, I think, at Atlanta. But what they need is sort of take those individuals away and sort of make it more of a team. So I'm not saying individuals have to be individuals, they're more of a collective. Because you could see the way that it was going, even though Atlanta were dominating the game, you just knew that it sucks all the confidence out of them. And I think that's a situation that Atlanta finds. They need this group of players, and like I say, they've got some very good individual players, but they have to make them a team. And obviously, they've got a very experienced coach in there who has the ability to do that. But for whatever reason, it's not happened as of yet. Because if you look at them, if you just put those 11 players, the 11 strongest players on a team sheet, they're a good team.
Yeah.
But say, as we always used to say in England, games aren't won on paper. Now have to make this a collective where everybody is working for each other. The right back complements the right winger, the central midfielder complements the centre forward, that complements the left winger. And that's at the point where they're at now, where they have a collection of good players, but you now have to sort of make them more a collective than more individual. And that's the task now that Tata's got.
When you are in a frustrating season and it seems like you're banging your head against the wall and you're doing great, and then you have that moment like you talk about in the Nashville game. You're doing great defensively for 80 minutes, and then you have that moment, and then you get deflated. How difficult is it for a professional athlete to push through that and turn and get to that 90 minutes and turn these things into positives where it's like, there's the banana peel, there's that moment again. How do you get past that mentally to where it doesn't weigh you down and turn into a black cloud for an entire length of time?
It's very, because I think sport in general is very up and down. You have to take the highs with the lows, but winning becomes a habit. And in week out, you just feel as though when you go onto the football field that you're going to win the game, no matter how poorly you're playing. I would say that game probably summed it up. Nashville, everybody said, oh, they'll be looking forward to this break because they've had so many games. They've been in the CONCACAF Champions Cup and what have you. I was never tired when I was winning. If I was part of a team that was winning, and I could quite happily next day. So it becomes a mental thing. So whereas I've said about winning becomes a habit, so does losing. And the problem is when you're losing all the time, you forget what it A to win, but B, more importantly, how to win. And that the Nashville game really summed it up for me in a way which was like Atlanta were doing all the running, but it was like, oh no, here we go again. And that's what happened. So the only way you can do that is by getting that winning feeling back, by winning 2 games in a row and getting things going. Then all of a sudden those questions start to go away from your mind, because all of a sudden you get that winning feeling. And like I say, I've been on both sides of it. I've been in teams where I've come off the pitch and we've won 3-0 and I'm in the dressing room and I'm like, how have we won that game? And I've come off the pitch before and we've lost 2 or 3-0 and I'm like, how have we lost that game? So it's football, sport in general has a huge mentality emphasis. And the only way you can get to that point where you want to get to is to get that confidence from winning games. And that's the key, because like I said previously, winning becomes a habit just as losing does. And one habit the other habit is very, very difficult to get rid of.
So you mentioned Nashville. What's study hall been like getting ready for this weekend, eh?
It's been fascinating. It's been, obviously it's a switch from Leagues Cup and everything that's been going on with that, and it's back to MLS now. But I can't wait. I think this would be such a good game. There's many things that are being mentioned about the game. Obviously, know what's happened with Messi, with his father. It's you see his post, and it was so heartfelt. Just reading that myself, I'm fortunate both of my parents are still alive, but just reading it sort of made you feel sort of a little bit of a heaviness of what he's going through. And I think at times we look at this, in my opinion, as the greatest ever player. And I think at times we forget that he's human, and he has the same emotions as everybody else. And I must admit that him coming on in the last game that Inter Miami played in Leagues Cup, I was really surprised. So, maybe he looks at it. And I've played with players before. I've had a manager before where I remember when I was at Stoke City, and Tony Pulis I think his father passed away. It was a Monday night game that we had, and I think his father passed away that day. So we were all told that, he wasn't going to be there for the game or anything like that. Half time, he turns up in the dressing room. We're getting beat, I think, 1-0. He turns up at half time in the dressing room. And it was a contrast of emotions then. So, and then looking at it with players that I've played with before that have gone through, these really, really emotional times, really testing times, really sad times. Some players have looked at it and gone, me going on the football field is my oasis. It's where I can forget about everything for 45 minutes, 90 minutes. But there's other players that I've played with that just haven't been able to face that. So it's just aside from the emotional side, and how does Messi see that? Obviously, he comes onto the field in their last game, so he looks as it like that's his happiest place to be, is in terms of to be able to have that get away from what's going on in his life. So I think, does he start tomorrow? Because we know if Messi's playing, then realistically you've got an unbelievable chance of winning the game. So I think that in itself is something to look at. I think you look at from Miami's perspective, they've got injuries.
Mm-hmm.
It's fair to say that Mikael, who's probably been their strongest defender, most consistent defender, he goes off injured. The likelihood is that he's not going to be there. So that's a big blow for them. And then I look at this Nashville team. This Nashville team really impresses me because they find ways to win, whether it's dominating the ball, whether it's sitting back. You look at the forward plays they've got: Noza, Mukhtar, Surridge. So it's going to be a really good game. And if I had to sort of hedge my bets,
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a game that Nashville can win. I really do.
So then, in every game that you and Kanji do,
Yeah.
there's always the players of the match. We're in that open, and you get player to focus on team A,
Yes.
player to focus on team B. Give me two dudes that will not be those two dudes that will be key to the success for their clubs in this matchup coming up on the weekend.
That will be key or won't be key.
Yeah, they will be key to winning, but they won't be your players to watch. So give me those second level, B level dudes.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's not a second level player by any stretch
Right.
of the imagination because he's won more than I could ever dream of.
Mm-hmm.
He's played at the biggest clubs in the world and he's still going. He won't be my player to watch. Going to be a key player in the game, and that is Casemiro.
Mm-hmm.
I think the positioning that he's going to take with the turnover of possession, because one thing that Nashville can do, they can dominate, but Nashville can also play on the counter attack. And I think Inter Miami are probably at their most vulnerable on the counter attack. So I think Casemiro's movement, I think his positioning will be absolutely vital. So he would be for Inter Miami. Now for Nashville,
Nahar?
the centre back.
Okay.
Wallagy, the centre back. They have Nahar is obviously a great mention, but I think in Wallagy and Palacios, Nashville back partnership in the whole of MLS. I think those two players allow the team to play a high line. But I think where a player like Wallagy is going to be really important is Miami don't necessarily press from the front. Okay, so if Bertarami's back fit, he is one of the players that will press. Suarez tries to do as much as he can, but I don't think, his pressing is ordinarily where you would want your centre forward energy-wise to be pressing. Like, they're too on the ball. So a player like Wallagy, if he's able to step out with the ball, keep your eye on him. He can get into the left wing position. He can end up going in the centre position. He advances with the ball. So all of a sudden, this now links the point Casemiro as well. If Wallagy can get the ball and they can break that from Inter Miami, then I think you're going to find Wallagy is going to really open up the field. Because all of a sudden, whether it be DePaul, whether it be Bright, whether it be Casemiro, one of the players is going to have to advance, go to Wallagy. If they do that, then all of a sudden there's a domino effect. All of then the shape of Inter Miami, their defensive gets broken. All of a sudden there's space for Mukhtar high up the field, there's space for Espinoza, there's space for Surridge. So those are the two players that I watch are going to have a huge part to play as in terms of the outcome of this game.
And be careful of the cut back cross. For God's sake, make sure if you're Nashville that you're there and you're ready for the cutback. It's gonna be there, and it drives people crazy.
Do you know what? It drives people crazy, and we all find ourselves watching games and going, "How? Why has this been able to happen again? Why has this been allowed to happen again?" And it isn't due to like necessarily. It's more so the fact of the geniuses that are on the ball, and that for me is something like I've played with players before, and I've played against players where they have one or two tricks, and if you're watching the game, like you know what he's going to do, you know exactly what he's going to do. Why don't you stop him? it's easier said than done. So yeah, you make a very valid point. The cutbacks, if the cutback goes to the edge of the area, number 10's weight, everybody might as well just walk back to that's going to be a restart from a goal. And I just this game for me, I just find it really, really fascinating. I think an argument for both teams to win, and there's an argument for both teams to lose. I think that's what makes it such a good game. You know, it's first and second in Supporters Shield, second in the Eastern Conference, and it's going to be a great game. We're starting to get to the point now in MLS, which is like, okay, this is the real in times, the tasty times, where it's like teams are going to come from nowhere and make a run. Teams who have had a great first half of the season are going to then start go down a little bit lower. So this is the time where, you know, results are going to have like a huge part to play. And as they NFL, at times it's the witching hour where wins become losses and losses become wins. Had to get that in.
Oh, he invoked Scott Hansen and Red Zone on a
What a
Friday.
genius he
that
is as well. What a genius he is. Do you know,
Oh.
like just going off for one like minute, I read an interview that he did because he's on air for like 6 or 7 hours straight. And I read an interview that he did, like how he has to like sort of make sure that he doesn't have to go to the toilet during the show. He's had to do it once, and it is unbelievable. He is an absolute genius, and he's like enabled me to get more involved with NFL. And obviously I know we're talking football and things like that, but I just had to get in there because he's a genius.
No, look, when you come in, as I tell you, if you're ever bored on a Friday, if something's on your mind, I'm serious.
I'm stuck in an airport.
Yeah, if you're stuck in an airport, bored out of your mind, hey, I want to see, I got to get this off my chest. I want to check in with Nelson. I got to see what's going on. But no, we could talk. Look, we could talk Red Zone. We could talk fantasy. We could talk your game with you and Kanji. Look, we could talk barbecue. I don't care. It's a Friday. We're getting ready for the weekend, man. Whatever. It doesn't matter.
Yes.
Just come on in.
We're getting ready for the weekend, so I'm flying to Nashville tomorrow. My parents are flying in tomorrow for 2 weeks. My oldest son's flying in on Sunday, so yeah, so that's going to be fun. Looking forward to that. Definitely,
man. That's going to be
spend a couple of weeks. Hopefully the weather's nice. Nice and get down to the beach on the beach.
Okay, just checking. All right, just be safe, my friend. May you and Kanji have a hell of a call. And obviously, you know the open door policy, Higgy baby. You can come in anytime you want.
Yes, appreciate it, mate. Always great to catch up with you.
There he goes. There's Danny Higginbotham. He's got like other stuff, and it's always great to catch up with Danny. So it's hit Kanji and Danny. They are doing Inter Miami and Nashville. And that is a Saturday showcase, and it's going to be a blast to listen to that one. But yeah, a lot of points that Danny made in that. Keep an eye on Casemiro and Max Willeji. I did not have Willeji on the bingo card, but that is definitely one to keep an eye on. So we'll keep an eye on Max Willeji, keep an eye on Casemiro, and keep an eye on that match.